Success isn't built in a single day. It's built in the daily disciplines, the little routines we never skip. You see, failure is just a few errors in judgment repeated every day, and success is the opposite. Simple, disciplined is practiced daily. The most successful people in the world are not extraordinary. They simply have habits they refuse to break. Today, I'm going to share with you 5 daily routines the most successful people never skip. And if you adopt even one of them, it could change the entire direction of your life. When you wake up in the morning, the very first decision you make sets the tone for your entire day. Most people don't realize this. They think the morning is just another part of the 24 hours they've been given. But it's not. The morning is the doorway to the rest of the day, and how you step through that doorway matters more than you might believe. If you stumble in distracted, unfocused, without a sense of purpose, then the whole day becomes a reaction. But if you step in with clarity, with intention, with a plan, then the day bends in your favor. I've often said that success doesn't happen by accident. You don't wake up one day and there it is, all laid out, waiting for you. No, success is designed, success is built, success is lived. And that design starts in the morning. One of the greatest mistakes you can make is to hand your day over to chance. People wake up and grab their phones, scroll endlessly, read whatever headline screams the loudest, and before they know it, the day has already decided for them. But the most successful people I've met, they don't let the world choose their mood, they decide. They don't wait for circumstances to set their attitude. They set their attitude first thing in the morning. It's a choice. Every morning, you either design your life or you drift. And drifting is dangerous because it feels harmless. You think, what's the harm in just taking it easy this morning? But that one morning becomes a week, that week becomes a year, and suddenly you wonder why you're not where you hope to be. The truth is, it was all decided in those little choices you made each morning. The successful never skip that choice. They start the day with intention. So what does it mean to start the day with intention? It means you wake up and ask yourself, what kind of day do I want to build today? What do I want to contribute? Who do I want to become by the time this day ends? It's not about making a to-do list a mile long. It's about being deliberate with the hours you've been given. Imagine you've been handed a box with 24 golden coins in it every morning. That's time. You can spend those coins wisely, investing them in health, learning, relationships, progress, or you can waste them. But make no mistake, by midnight, every coin will be gone, whether you spent them intentionally or carelessly. That's why the greats always begin with clarity. They write down their goals, they take a moment to visualize, they breathe, they pray, they plan. It doesn't matter what form it takes. What matters is that it's deliberate. They are not carried by the winds of distraction. They hold the rudder firmly and decide the direction of their ship before the storms of the day arrive. Now, here's something fascinating. Intention creates energy. Have you noticed that when you have something you're excited about, you don't feel the same heaviness in the morning? You rise differently. There's a spark, and that spark doesn't come from the coffee, it comes from clarity. When you know why you're getting up, when you know what's at stake, when you know the value of today, you don't waste it. You seize it. And here's the other side of it. When you skip intention, life becomes repetition. You may be busy, but you're not moving. You may be working hard, but you're not going anywhere. It's like running on a treadmill. You sweat, you get tired, but you're still in the same place. But when you start your day with intention, you're not just moving, you're advancing. Every step carries you closer to something meaningful. Now, some people say, I'll start when things settle down. I'll get intentional once I'm less busy. But that's like saying you'll start steering the boat once the waves calm down. That's not how it works. The storms don't calm before you take control. They calm because you've taken control. The most successful know this. And that's why they never skip the practice of beginning their day on purpose. It doesn't take hours. Sometimes it's just 10 minutes of quiet thought, asking yourself the right questions. Sometimes it's reviewing your goals. Sometimes it's writing in a journal. Sometimes it's a simple declaration. Today, I will live with purpose. But that simple decision creates a shift that compounds over weeks, months, and years. Remember, success is not a one-time event. It's a pattern, and patterns are made of daily choices. If you can win the morning, you have a chance to win the day. And if you can win enough days, you'll win the years. That's how lives are transformed. That's how destinies are shaped. So don't leave your day to chance. Don't let the world decide what kind of mood you'll be in or what kind of effort you'll give. Take the time, just a few precious moments each morning, to decide who you're going to be, what you're going to do, and how you're going to live. Because if you don't, I promise you, someone else will decide it for you. And that's not a risk the successful are ever willing to take. If you want your life to change, your mind must change first. And if you want your mind to change, you've got to feed it every single day. Most people understand the importance of feeding their body. If you skip meals for too long, you grow weak, your energy drops, and eventually you can't function. But have you noticed how many people starve their minds? They wake up, rush into their day, and fill their heads with noise instead of nourishment. They scroll endlessly, absorb gossip, soak in negativity, and then wonder why they feel stuck, uninspired, or defeated. The truth is, the quality of your mind determines the quality of your life. And that's why the most successful people never skip the daily routine of feeding their mind. Now, when I say feed the mind, I don't mean stuffing it with random information. There's a difference between consumption and nourishment. You can consume content all day long and still be starving mentally. Nourishment is intentional. Nourishment means you're taking in ideas, principles, wisdom, lessons that lift you, sharpen you, and expand your perspective. Because the mind is like a garden. If you don't plant the right seeds, weeds will take over, and the weeds of doubt, fear, and mediocrity grow fast. You don't have to plant them, they come naturally. What you have to do is make sure you're sowing the seeds of growth every single day. One of the best habits you can develop is reading, not just for entertainment, but for growth. Think of it, a person can take 10 years of experience, package it into a book, and you can access that wisdom in just a few hours. That's a trade you can't afford to miss. Successful people read daily, not because they're forced to, but because they understand the compounding value of knowledge. A new idea could shift their thinking. A single principle could change the way they lead, work, or live. And that shift could be worth everything. But reading isn't the only way. Listening is just as powerful. We live in an age where the greatest mentors are within reach at all times. You can listen to an audiobook while you drive, hear a lecture while you walk, study wisdom while you exercise. Imagine transforming wasted time into learning time. That's how the successful think. They don't let hours slip away unnoticed. They turn waiting into studying. They turn travel into training. They turn every spare moment into an opportunity to feed the mind. Now here's something to keep in mind. Feeding the mind daily is not just about acquiring knowledge. It's about shaping character. Because if all you do is collect facts, you might end up smart but not wise. Wisdom is knowledge applied. It's ideas turned into practice. And the more you expose your mind to higher levels of thinking, the more your actions will reflect it. That's why the most successful don't just read for entertainment, they read for transformation. They ask, how does this apply to me? How can I use this? How can I grow from this? And feeding the mind isn't always about adding something new. Sometimes it's about reminding yourself of truths you already know but forget to live by. You've probably noticed that life has a way of distracting us, pulling us away from principles that matter. That's why repetition is so powerful. You don't just read a book once, you study it again. You don't just listen to wisdom once, you revisit it. Every time you return, you catch something you missed before. And every time you do, it roots itself deeper into your way of thinking. There's another point here. If you don't feed your mind, someone else will. And it may not be with the right kind of food. The news, the gossip, the trivial distractions, they all compete for your attention. If you don't take charge of what you consume, the world will hand you junk food for the mind. And just like junk food for the body, it tastes good in the moment, but it weakens you in the long run, man. That's why you have to be intentional. Guard your intake. Choose wisely. Because what you allow in eventually shows up in what you put out. Let me tell you, the people who rise highest in life aren't always the most talented, and they're not always the luckiest. They're the ones who constantly renew and refresh their mind. They're learners. They're seekers. They're growers. They refuse to stagnate. Every day, they look for a way to stretch themselves just a little further, and over time, that little stretch adds up. The difference between average and exceptional is rarely one giant leap. It's usually a small daily feeding that multiplies into greatness. So the question is, what are you feeding your mind today? What did you learn? What did you expose yourself to that will make tomorrow better than yesterday? Because if the answer is nothing, then the weeds are already winning. But if the answer is something, if you fed your mind with wisdom, with clarity, with truth, then you're building a foundation that can carry you through anything. That's why the successful never skip this. They know that to change the outer world, they must first change the inner world. And the inner world can only grow if it's fed daily with the right kind of food. It's hard to talk about success without talking about energy, because no matter how big your dreams are, no matter how sharp your mind is, if your body can't keep up, the whole thing falls apart. You see, your body is the engine that carries you through every idea, every goal, every challenge. And the truth is, the most successful people understand this. They don't take their health casually. They treat it as a priority because they know you can't build a great life on a weak foundation. Now, I know some people say, I'll take care of my health later. Right now, I've got to focus on building my business, making money, chasing goals. But what they don't realize is that neglecting the body is like trying to run a race with a broken shoe. You might start strong, but eventually the pain slows you down. The successful never wait until later. They build their future by making sure their body can handle the demands of that future. Think of it this way: your body is the only house you're going to live in your whole life. You can buy a new car, upgrade your home, change your clothes, but you only get one body, and the care you give it today determines how well it will serve you tomorrow. You can't trade it in, you can't exchange it, you can't upgrade it on demand. That's why the successful treat their body like their most valuable asset. They exercise, they rest, they eat wisely, not because they're obsessed with health, but because they understand health is the currency that pays for all achievement. And here's something important: taking care of your body isn't about perfection. It's about consistency. The small disciplines make the big difference. A 30-minute walk, drinking water instead of another soda, getting an extra hour of sleep. These may seem small, almost too small to matter. But over time, they add up. They protect you from burnout. They fuel your productivity. They sharpen your focus. And that focus is what allows you to perform at your highest level day after day. You've probably noticed how hard it is to stay motivated when you're tired, sluggish, or drained. It's tough to dream big when you don't even have the energy to get through the morning. And this is why health matters. Because energy is the fuel for creativity. It's the fuel for persistence. It's the fuel for resilience. Without it, even the brightest ideas will fade before they're acted upon. Let me tell you, the successful never gamble with their health. They know that skipping rest, ignoring exercise, abusing their body may give them a few extra hours today, but it robs them of years tomorrow. And that's not a trade they're willing to make. They'd rather slow down for an hour to recharge than break down for months because of neglect. They'd rather invest in wellness now than pay the price of illness later. And this isn't just about avoiding sickness. It's about maximizing performance. Think about an athlete. Before they step onto the field, they train, they condition, they fuel their body with the right nutrients. Why? Because they know their body is the difference between winning and losing. Well, life is no different. Every day you're on the field, every day you're running plays, facing opposition, chasing goals. And the stronger your body, the better your chance of winning. Now, some people may say, I don't have time to exercise, I don't have time to rest. But the truth is, you don't have time not to, because the time you think you're saving by neglecting your body will cost you tenfold later. A weak body steals time. A strong body gives it back. And if you want to live long enough to enjoy the fruits of your labor, then you've got to invest in your health daily. Here's the secret: the successful know the mind and body are partners. You can't separate them. A sharp mind and a weak body won't last. A strong body without a sharp mind won't lead. But when the two work together, that's when you see extraordinary performance. That's why the successful don't skip their workout, don't skip their rest, don't skip their fuel. They understand it's not a luxury, it's a requirement. And it's not about vanity, it's about vitality. It's about being able to show up fully for your work, your family, your mission. It's about having the stamina to go the extra mile when others are quitting. It's about having the strength to endure the long journey of success, because success is not a sprint, it's a marathon, and only those who care for their body make it all the way to the finish line. So when you wake up each day, don't just plan your schedule for work, plan your schedule for health. Don't just ask, what will I achieve today? Ask, how will I care for the engine that makes achievement possible? Because if you do, you'll find that success feels lighter, progress feels smoother, and life itself becomes richer. And that's why the successful never skip the simple daily disciplines of taking care of their body. Discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment. It's not the big victories that build a successful life. It's the small, consistent acts of discipline repeated over time. The little things you do, the little things you refuse to do, those are the things that determine where you end up. Most people think success is hidden in the big moments, the breakthrough opportunities, the dramatic achievements. But the truth is, success is hidden in the ordinary, in the routine, in the small daily choices that no one else sees. The successful understand this. They know it's not just about doing the big things right, it's about doing the small things right over and over. Anyone can be disciplined when the spotlight is on, when the stakes are high. But it takes character to be disciplined when no one's watching, when it's inconvenient, when it doesn't seem to matter. That's where true success is built. Think about it. Missing one workout doesn't seem like a big deal. Skipping one book, one journal entry, one task doesn't seem like it will hurt. Eating one unhealthy meal won't destroy your health. But here's the catch. One skipped discipline rarely stays one. It multiplies. 1 becomes 2, 2 becomes 10, and soon enough you've built a habit of neglect instead of a habit of discipline. And habits are powerful. They shape your destiny whether you notice it or not. The successful don't underestimate the small. They know that what looks insignificant today becomes significant tomorrow. Writing a single page a day doesn't seem like much, but in a year you've written a book. Saving a small amount of money doesn't seem like much, but compounded over time it builds wealth. Spending 15 minutes studying doesn't seem like much, but do it every day and you'll know more in a year than most people learn in 5. The small disciplines create momentum, and momentum is what carries you further than talent ever will. Now, discipline isn't always easy. If it were, everyone would have it. The truth is, discipline often feels uncomfortable in the moment. It requires sacrifice. It requires saying no to what feels good now for what will feel great later. It's choosing effort over ease, growth over comfort. And that's why so many people avoid it. They'd rather choose what's easy, and then they wonder why their life feels hard. But the successful understand that if you choose discipline now, life will be easier later. If you avoid discipline now, life will be harder later. The small disciplines are also a test. They prove whether you can be trusted with more. If you can't manage the little things, why would life hand you the big things? If you can't keep your desk organized, how can you run an organization? If you can't discipline yourself to save $10, how can you manage 10,000? The small things prepare you for the bigger responsibilities. They are the training ground for greater success. And here's the beauty of it. Once you master discipline in the small, it spills into the big. You start by making your bed and suddenly you're organizing your time. You start by saving a few coins and suddenly you're managing investments. You start by controlling your words and suddenly you're leading people. The small things grow into big things, and they grow quietly, almost invisibly, until one day you realize your life has transformed because of them. Some people think discipline takes away freedom. They think routines and rules will trap them. But the truth is the opposite. Discipline creates freedom. When you discipline yourself financially, you free yourself from debt and stress. When you discipline your health, you free yourself from sickness and limitation. When you discipline your time, you free yourself from chaos and regret. Freedom isn't the absence of rules. Freedom is the reward of discipline. But discipline must be daily. You can't save it for special occasions. You can't be disciplined once a week and expect results. It's the everyday choices, the little commitments that add up. Just like a chain is only as strong as its weakest link, your success is only as strong as your weakest habit. That's why the successful refuse to skip the little disciplines. They know those little links hold everything together. So ask yourself, what are the small disciplines in your life that you've been neglecting? What little things could you commit to today that over time would change everything? Because those little things matter. They matter more than you realize. Success isn't built in a day. It's built day by day. And that's why the successful never skip the discipline of the small things. One of the greatest disciplines you can develop in life is the ability to pause, to stop in the middle of the business, to step away from the noise, and to reflect. Because without reflection, life just becomes a blur. Days turn into weeks, weeks into years, and before you know it, you've been running hard but not really moving forward. Reflection allows you to measure, to evaluate, to see clearly what worked, what didn't, what should continue, and what must change. And the successful never skip this. They don't just live their days, they review them. They don't just experience life, they examine it. When you take time to reflect, you turn experience into wisdom. Experience by itself teaches very little. You can go through 10 years of mistakes and never learn a thing if you don't reflect. But take 10 minutes to review a single mistake, and you can gain enough wisdom to avoid it for the rest of your life. That's the power of reflection. It multiplies the value of every experience. It allows you to extract the lesson, to capture the insight, to build a foundation for better decisions tomorrow. And reflection isn't just about correcting mistakes, it's also about celebrating progress. Most people are so busy chasing the next goal that they forget to acknowledge how far they've already come. They dismiss their small victories, and in doing so, they rob themselves of the motivation that comes from recognizing growth. But when you pause to reflect, you see the steps you've taken. You notice the progress, even if it's small, and that recognition builds confidence. It fuels momentum. It reminds you that you're moving in the right direction, even if the finish line still feels far away. Now, reflection naturally leads to gratitude because when you stop long enough to look at your life, you can't help but notice the blessings, the opportunities you've been given, the people who have helped you, the doors that opened at just the right time. Gratitude shifts your perspective. Without it, you'll always focus on what's missing, on what's wrong, on what you don't yet have. But with it, you begin to see how much is already right, how much you've already been given, how much you've already overcome. And that awareness changes everything. Gratitude doesn't mean you stop striving. It doesn't mean you stop reaching for more. It means you learn to find joy in the process, not just in the destination. It means you can pursue bigger dreams without being blinded by dissatisfaction. Gratitude balances ambition. It keeps you grounded while you climb. It reminds you that success isn't only measured in achievements, but also in appreciation. And gratitude has another benefit. It opens the door to more. When you're grateful, you attract opportunities. People want to help those who appreciate, not those who complain. Life responds to those who are thankful. The soil of gratitude produces a greater harvest than the soil of resentment. And that's why the successful never skip the practice of giving thanks. They understand that gratitude is not just a feeling, it's a discipline. It's something you practice every single day. Now, reflection and gratitude together create clarity. When you reflect, you see the truth about where you are. When you're grateful, you see the beauty in where you are. And from that place, you can make wiser decisions about where to go next. Without reflection, you risk repeating the same mistakes. Without gratitude, you risk missing the meaning in your achievements. But with both, you gain perspective, and perspective is priceless. Some people will say they don't have time for this. They're too busy, too caught up in the rush of life. But let me tell you, if you don't have time to reflect, you'll eventually waste far more time repeating mistakes. If you don't have time to be grateful, you'll spend your days feeling empty even when you have everything you once prayed for. Reflection and gratitude don't steal time, they multiply it. They give you wisdom, energy, and peace that save you from years of wandering in circles. So make it a daily routine. At the end of each day, take a few moments to think. Ask yourself, what did I learn today? What did I do well? What could I have done better? And then ask, what am I thankful for right now? Write it down, speak it out loud. Carry it in your heart. These little moments will shape you more than you realize. They'll give you direction, strength, and joy. Because in the end, success is not just about how far you go. It's about how much you've grown, how much you've given, and how much you've appreciated along the way. And that's why the successful never skip the practice of reflection and giving thanks.